and welcome. I'm Garima, and joining me on the Dais today is Abhijeet Anand. Abhijeet is a commercial engineer at Schlumberger. Thank you so much for joining me today, Abhijeet. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very much, Garima, for the wonderful introduction. It's my pleasure as well, and I'm really grateful that I'm here with you today.
Thank you so much, Abhijeet. Abhijeet, let's begin with your story. Tell us about your roots, your career path, and how has it been for you all the while?
It's been quite an interesting story, actually. If I start looking back from where I started and how has this journey unfolded, and I can definitely tell you the destination is still far away. It's definitely a story that I would love to share with young people, and if I could do it, I'm pretty sure that many others can. So to start off, I grew up all my childhood in a small town in Bihar, called Jamalpur.
Yes.
As you know, Bihar is one of the lowest ranked states in the country in terms of economic strata, even education status. So nothing was different for me either. The place that I grew did not have running water, it had 2 hours of electricity per day. So most of my studies went under the lamp. It was quite an interesting phase. It was a struggle, but I learned a lot over the first few years as I studied through. But that's where I grew up. I did my 10th there, the 12th board examinations there. 12th board, the results were quite nice, I would say. I was all India chemistry topper. And then I decided took a decision that was quite stands critical even today in my life, is that to take an admission into an engineering college right after 12th, and which my parents wanted and which I revolted to. And we'll come to that probably later on how that evolved. And then I dropped for a year, got full scholarship from one of the training institutions, and got into IIT the next year.
Wow.
That's when the life, I would say, that was a critical juncture in my life. The things started to happen.
Right.
From a guy who was bullied in his school for several reasons, and then from a guy who changed his personality and perspectives in university. Because university for me, the 4 years, I still count as a golden years. I mean, you name it, and probably I was challenged to that, and I did it. So I entered university with no connections in the oil and gas industry, and our industry is quite niche.
Yes.
So I remember first year in university, someone told me, if you don't know anyone in the industry, forget about getting an internship, right? And that kind of hit me very hard. And just to tell you a fact, like after 4 years, I ended up doing 6 internships in 6 different organizations in all the major oil and gas companies in the country, in India. And that happened without knowing anybody and actually leveraging my own expertise, my own knowledge and exposure by connecting to people, by networking and getting out to work, right? So that's how the university started off. It went really good. I was good in extracurricular activities as well. I was a leader for student council of the university at IIT Dhanbad. I got an internship with Schlumberger, converted into a pre-placement offer. I was one of the few guys who got placed, one of the first guys who got placed in the university. So overall, the life was well balanced between extracurricular, my professional, my networking. I ended up going to 2 international conferences, the 2 largest conferences for oil and gas industry, that is ATCE in San Antonio, in Texas in 2012. And in 2013, I was invited as a distinguished student delegate in SPE IPTC conference in Beijing.
Wow.
So and that was his final year. And then that's where university went, and I landed up into Schlumberger. And then it's been a journey in the last 7 years in Schlumberger as well. Today, I'm a commercial engineer based in Bucharest in Romania. That's my current role. And the last 7 years have taken me from field, hammering in the field with dirty coveralls and mud and oil on the face and the hands. I would say today to quite a white collar job, which is sitting in the office and developing strategies for the company.
Wow.
That's been my, I would say, the professional kind of journey. And then on parallel, there has been work around passionate work about Sarthak, where I work with children and young adults to make them more empowered and bring skills in them to make them more responsible citizens. So that's in brief that I do, and I see myself more believing in three principles: that is love, life, and empower. So
Yes.
the more you love, the better you life, and the more the empowering lives you can generate. So yeah, that's a bit in brief about me.
That's beautiful, actually. And I would like to congratulate you first on your journey because it's quite unusual. Now, everyone who is watching this, I would like them to understand that getting into IITs is not easy. It is everyone's dream here in India. It's one of the toughest exams. And considering your difficult setup, the environment you grew up in, I can understand that because I live hardly 200 kilometers away from that place where you started. So I totally understand your struggle. What were some of the challenges that you experienced growing up and then in your journey with education?
Right. So quite a few, I would say. To start with, I'll give you an example. When I passed out 10th, and I went into 11th, that was the first step that I was taking. And that was the first time when I would say, I started giving my service back. So I started giving tuitions in order to get my pocket money to make sure that I had enough money to spend on extra classes in 11th grade. So I remember my first salary, which was 900 rupees, Indian rupees, right? Which is what, $12, right, for a month. So, yeah, and I still remember the kind of effort that went through. So the first challenge I faced was to ensure I get the best education I can afford at that place. With the way which I term it is, every place has problems and difficulties, but then it has opportunities as well. So you need to see the light where you are in and make sure you get the best out of that environment that you remain. So that was the one that started off in 10th grade.
Mhm.
The second happened, I'd say, when I went after 12th to 13th, or the period when I prepared for the engineering entrance examination. I remember going to Patna, so your city.
Yeah.
That's where I prepared in one of the institutions. And the first day I went there, I was overwhelmed. I was a district topper in 12th grade in my small district hometown, right? But when
Right.
I went there, I was overwhelmed because of the knowledge that people of my grade had. I would say the exposure, not really the knowledge. It was more of the exposure and the confidence. So I grew up in a setup where the dreams were quite constrained because you dream what you see, right? I mean, most of the cases that you see and the maximum you see, that's what you dream of.
Right, right.
But unfortunately, at that time, we did not have Facebook, we did not have Instagram or quite internet. I remember just going to cyber cafe, like computer station, once just to see the 10th examination results, right?
Right.
So it was quite limited, and then that was the second time I would say when I was overwhelmed. I
And
was
that
like,
was the 15 rupees an hour or so during that time, I remember, for using the cyber cafe, That's how I remember it. You had to pay like 10 rupees or 15 rupees for using the internet for an hour or so. I'm not sure what does it cost now, or even if there are cyber cafes back in Patna or Bihar anymore. But yes, that's how it has been.
I agree, I agree. I remember exactly the similar charges, and I think they do exist, but it's almost a non-existent
Yes, yes.
structure. Everybody has internet in their hands right now. So yeah, and that's when I would say when I went there, I was overwhelmed, and just seeing the people there, and that's when I felt first time that when you're not mentored well and exposed to competition outside, when we meet them, it can be very very fatal. Fatal in the sense that negative, because even if you know a lot and if you don't know how to communicate, uh, you are lagging behind. So it was a tough 1 year, but I did cope up. I remember it was tough, but then again, using the same principle of getting the best of the situation, believing in myself, and making sure that I don't lose my self trust, which has been my single most, I would say, strength all through my journey. And then I passed it through, qualified JE examination, and then went into IIT ISM in petroleum engineering. That's where I started studied petroleum engineering.
Right.
That was the second, and then I'll say it did continue to come, but one of the notable ones I would mention happened was also in university, and that was when I went there. In university, the differences are even magnified. Because when you go to university, it's not only you who is there, and especially JE examination where the selection rate is less than 1%, 1 million students compete for 15,000 seats. The competition is quite, it's very strenuous. And there, it doesn't matter where you come from. The
Right.
moment you are there, you compete with the best in the country, who have studied the best school in the country, who have been exposed to the best resources in the country or at that time, and it doesn't matter where you come from.
Right.
And that was the first, I would say, personality shock I got. And even though I passed these phases and I really could see my self confidence being impacted in the first year, and then I believe there's the same self trust and my own standing up for myself stood up, and I really used that to my advantage. Like by the time I graduated in 4 years, I really feel confident and proud to say that I was among the top few students who graduated from the university with everything that you can do in the university, with all the avenues that you can utilize, and that has remained with me all throughout. So these are some of the things that I faced during the education phase, and I would say, and one thing that stands out in all of them is belief in yourself. And I say, if I could do it with my exposure and my environment, I couldn't see there a reason why you couldn't. With the current avenues you have today,
Right.
you will agree with me, Garima, at our time, when probably 10 years back, we did not have this much internet
Yes.
and exposure. We really had limited people who could come forward and speak. Today, you have everything on your fingertips. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Networking at that point of time used to be birthday parties, weddings in the family. That's how we used to connect with people. School functions, events in the school. That's how it has been for us. Now, going by your story, Abhijit, there's one thing that I would like you to help our viewers understand. That is that communication skills, developing strong communication skills, and building a strong personality, a strong personal brand is not an online course. It's not any session that you can take and improve at it. It is something that begins right from our roots, something we need to focus on right in the beginning. How would you advise the students, the younger generation, coming from all different backgrounds, to focus on these things even when they have limited choices available?
Right. So, I think I couldn't have a better example than myself. So, I remember in my school days, first of all, I like to acknowledge that where I am today, I'm actually in a farmhouse in the outskirts of Bucharest in Romania, and next to a park, so next to a lake. So you might hear some sound of, mysterious birds, which might be soothing for the ears, and maybe some boats passing on my back. So please bear with me,
It's a
right?
melody.
So,
It's a melody. Don't worry about it.
thank you. So yeah, I wouldn't. I'd say my example, and I'd say the way I have groomed myself, it would be a quite a practical example that I can give. I remember in my school days, I used to stammer when I used to go to the stage, and I used to freeze. And that's when I realized that rather than going back from it, I used to go more. I said, if I freeze on something, I should rather try to warm myself up on that stage so that the freezing thing goes away. So my earlier school, I used to stammer, which improved in my high school.
Right.
And then in my high school, I remember in 12th grade, in 12th grade, there is pre-board examination before the
Mhm.
board examinations. So I was a topper in my school, and I was awarded, if you know Kendriya Vidyalaya, it has a very single structure. It awards Mr. Science, Mr. and Mrs. Commerce. Basically, who's the topper gets that kind of an accolade in
Right.
the pre-board. So I did get it, and I was a topper in 12th pre-board. I got Mr. Science, and I was asked to come on the stage and give an impromptu address to 400 people. To me, that was the first impromptu address. So I was not at all ready because I did not expect, to be honest, to be the topper.
Right.
And then I went there, and I remember I spoke for 15 minutes, making absolute no sense. And it urged me. There were several reasons. I was super excited. I was super happy. I never got up. My adrenaline went up. I see my heart pumping very fast. I was like, what to speak, what not to speak. I spoke a lot of things, but probably in different directions, right? And that's when I believe that I could have used the stage a lot better. But
Right.
I learned that a couple of years later. Now, going back in university, things changed again. Remember, I told you that I was a student secretary for the student council.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the reason why I wanted myself to go into public stages was actually to kill my basic problem of communication.
Right.
So I knew that the only way you can tackle something is by facing it. And that's when in university, I gave several public addresses addressing 4,000 people, students, professors, teachers, leading my batch in several sessions. And then that's when I started building up my confidence. And probably now I'm much better than I used to be. And now people actually appreciate when I speak. But probably the journey is more responsible for the way I deliver my messages. And on all this journey, what matters is what is the story you have been building. So, or what is your brand that you're communicating to the world. Now, to go more specific to that, I'll say, what is a brand? So, a brand is something. So, after this talk, the conversation you make with your friend about Abhijeet and Garima is my brand. So whatever you speak about me after this talk is my brand. And if I don't communicate and if I don't tell my story well, there's nobody else in the world who can tell my story better than me. It is simple accepted fact. So personal brand is the story that you communicate in the best manner to the world. And the world talks about you when you're not around there. That's branding in simple words, right? Now, how to build that, how to build communication skills is the basic root behind that is to understand yourself. So your brand messaging can change. When you're a student, it can be different. When you're a professional, it can be different. So it will change and evolve. But there will be a time when you will want the world to know you in a unified manner. Now, once you know that, or until you know that, you keep building up faith. Now, how to do that is first to know yourself. Now, you will ask me, I don't know myself, and it changes. It's very natural, right? You don't have to figure out everything by the age of 25, 30, 35. Some people figure out at the age of 65. Like the KFC, the founder, he founded at, I forgot his name, Colonel Sanders.
Mm-hmm.
He founded his own calling at the age of 65 or 70. Now, there are people like Mark Zuckerberg who found his calling at the age of 21, 22, or even the founder of Oyo, Mr. Agarwal, he founded at the age of 20, 21. So it depends. It doesn't matter what age you are in. It depends on what journey you are in and where you are in that journey. So as long as you continue to figure out what brand you are and what messaging you want to communicate to the world, it's a work in progress. So where to start is by yourself. So you need to take a look back and see what are your weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
You can either run from it or move towards it to acquire it, right? So if you run from it, trust me, it will chase you. It will chase you until it chokes you. So what you need to do is go face it. And when you face it, there's no other way around. There's only one way, and that's forward, right? And then I'll give a very practical example. So I'm afraid of heights.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very afraid of heights. But you will be surprised to know that I have done skydiving from 21,000 feet.
Wow.
And then I have done bungee jumping from 230 meters height. I jumped.
Wow.
Now, both of these, if I say I am afraid of heights, you will say it's impossible you can do that, right? For people who are afraid, they will understand that they go dizzy when they're afraid of heights. Now, it happened to me as well. I remember jumping out from the plane, and I was scared to death when I put my feet outside on the paddle to jump. Now, skydiving to me is still easier because you have a trained person on your back.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to give another instance of bungee jumping, when I jumped from 230 meters from the hilltop, now that's scary because you have a rope in your leg and you jump without feeling anything that you have. Now, what happened to me was I was there in the cliff and I almost fainted. And while I was fainting, I said, Abhijeet, you can either jump down after you have fainted and you're off, or you jump now and enjoy the fun and have fun and see how it looks like. And that's what I did. Probably a few seconds before I was out, I jumped. And I can tell you that has been an experience of my life. And what I'm telling you is because that fear is something that stops you.
Right.
Now, that is the point when you have to see, is that fear taking you forward or is that fear taking you backward? If it takes you backward, you're not going in any direction. So if you have to fall, as they say, fall forward. And that's why I say the entire story of growing communication, personal branding starts by knowing your own weaknesses, where you stand today, and then growing from there.
Right, right. This is a very important and empowering message considering the unprecedented times that we are in right now. And Abhijit, how are you looking at the current crisis and what would you advise the younger generation, the class of 2020, to really focus upon? What would matter in the long run? What goes beyond this crisis?
Right. Okay. So before going into this, I'll give an instance. In 1994, there was a similar scenario, and specifically, I'll target this one to oil and gas industry students and young professionals, or the people professionals who are in rough waters. So, 1994, something similar happened, and very few people landed jobs in that year. Now, I'll cite an example from my university. So, Indian School of Mines is one of the premier or the best university for petroleum engineering in the country, and one of the premier in the world. That time, that batch, if I recall and what I've learned from my alumni, less than 10% of the people got placed into a job, which means 90% were jobless, right? You can imagine that was the top university in that domain at the time as well. So, but if I look back, fast forward how many years it is? 26 years? 26 years down the line. And if I look back 1993, 1992, 1995, batches around 1994, I see examples of so many achievers from 1994. It just outplaces the ones around them. Do you know why? And it's my personal observations. And again, it's my personal opinion. The reason is because this batch actually took the steps that other people were complacent to take. I know people from this batch. Who started as roughnecks, that your starting position that you do on the rig, as a roughneck or as a cleaner even. And that guy today is one of the geography's president in one of the major oil and gas companies. He leads a team of over 5,000 to 5,500 people, and a business worth more than, I would say, not less than 500 million. So that's the kind of the way he groomed. Now, people around him may have achieved this, but I see a lot of stories come from that particular batch. Now, what is there to learn for you and me here is to, first of all, accept the present. If you run from it, it's going to chase you, as I said before. So accept the present. This is the situation. Can you change it? You cannot. Now, once you accept it, you know this is the worst. Whatever's going to happen from here is better, right? So that's when you accept where you are and you know that next what's going to happen is better, you are progressive in your approaches. Right. Take steps, think about your values, think about things where you can add value to the ecosystem, come out with plans and solutions rather than cribbing and looking for problems which already exists and which is already there. I mean, unless you find a solution, you're going nowhere, right? Okay. So the way I'll say to connect the dots, the way I see this is the situation, and I'll give you some examples from my personal life. This situation is, first of all, is sad. It has tested the real self of many people, how deep you are within yourself. So shallow people will find it really struggling because they cannot find a base to stand. But if you're really within yourself, and you know where you stand as a human and as a person, you know your ground is firm, right? And that's where I'd say the situation has tested. So it has been sad because a lot of sad things have happened over the period, over the last few months. However, it has also been providing opportunities. How? So I have seen people during this period who were struggling to find jobs. One of my friends, he was struggling to find a job for the last 4 years. During this period, he started working on his passion. And for people who are from India listening to this talk, he makes 35,000 Indian rupees per month sitting at home by doing what he loves, not what he was applying for the job for the last 4 years. Yeah. You know why? It's because his mindset changed. Yeah. He just thought, okay, I'm not getting those jobs anymore in this period. Why not try something I love? And he is nailing it. Example number one. Number two, people or the services which were never online. I would say, for example, like kids with autism.
Mm-hmm.
You will never hear that the psychologists or doctors will ever say, I'll do a teleconferencing,
Yeah.
online conference, and coaching. Those kids, whichever part of the country or the world you are now being counseled online
Right.
because the doctors have no way to carry on their services other than
Right.
coming online.
Right.
Second light. Third light. The businesses which used to be expensive, the businesses which used to be costly just because they were on site, have now become very economic because they have become online. Give an example, online education. We needed a boost. There's
Mm-hmm.
no other boost than this,
Right.
right? Number four, I mean, I have plenty. If you want, I can keep on talking, but what I'm trying to tell you is, rather than going in more examples, is people have seen light in this opportunity. It's been sad. But then I'm telling you, there will be champions out of it as well, just because champions take these problems and find solutions to be the light and not to stay in the dark. So I see this opportunity in summary, and this situation in summary, as a scenario where you will be tested to the deepest of the roots. Your values will be scorched out of you, and then you will have to prove the real value that you can generate for the world, for yourself, and for your loved ones. uh, I see this is where the light lies in all the darkness in the current times.
Absolutely, indeed. I am with you on that totally. And amidst this backdrop, what skills do you think would really help people stand out? Because now this situation is also bringing into light some very important elements. As you pointed out, we will be tested for our courage, strength, and resilience. How important would a role soft skills and emotional intelligence would play in the times to come?
Right. So to me, I don't think there is anything important more than soft skills. You may be excellent in your technical skills, but in the current world, more than just technical skills, what you need is how you communicate the knowledge you have in a way that it makes an impact, right? Now, the moment you are unable to communicate, that's still the value that you have limits you to communicate to mass, right? So you're limiting yourself. So soft skills for me is the most important thing, if not the most important, is one of the most important things that's gonna change or that's gonna impact your life or me and your life and the people watching this video's life in the coming few months. So to give you a practical example, I often get approached by people on LinkedIn for job opportunities, for networking, and etc. And then there are people who approach to me and say, "Hi." They have a single line and then they say hi. I really don't know what do they mean by saying hi, or do they expect in return for me to reply hi. It's a bland statement with no direction, and with somebody with thousands of connections, it is impossible for me. Even if I could help you, I really cannot help you because just because you said hi.
There's no
So
context.
there's no context, there's no content, and I really won't want to get into communication which eats up my time without even me knowing if I'll add value to your life or not, right? So that's where soft skills come in. If you really know how to make a conversation, you can really ask for help in a way that you get your help. And that's where the techniques like or I'll say, like for this specific example, rather than saying hi, you say hi, introduce yourself, and rather for the person you're talking to, try to add value to the mission, passion, work, whatever he or she does. So in a way, the other person will believe, like me in this case, will believe like Garima is pinging me, for example, and now she wants to add value in the things that I do. Now I will be automatically, by human instinct, interested in you, right? And that's where the communication starts, and that is what it's soft skill. That's one of the examples. Second, I would say the example would be when you meet people. Now, meeting nowadays is quite less relevant, but when you meet people, is how you communicate your own story. Your own story, your brand that you have built on social media, your website, your digital presence, how you communicate it. I mean, if you cannot communicate it, it still lies on www dot. Nobody goes there, right? So communication in terms of how you put your story forward. And the third thing I would say is again one of the very important soft skill I would say is very important is your way of storytelling or your way of presentation.
Right.
So, how do you present yourself or your brand or your communication skills, and how you bring it forth in a way that becomes attractive to the specific person? So, what I mean is, when I talk to my colleagues in my work, I don't talk to them the same story,
Mm-hmm.
because the story that interests them may not be the story that I want to talk to them.
Right.
So I have to read the mindset of the people or try to understand the mindset of the people that they're interested in communication.
Mm-hmm.
When I talk to my friends and if I talk to them about my work, they will ditch me. They will stop talking to me and call me as a friend. So the way you present based on the audience and all your soft skills in terms of presentation, your oratory, your storytelling, your brand comes into picture and combines in your overall presentation skills. So I term these soft skills as one of the most relevant ones, which will be quite evident in the coming few days. And people who master these or who excel in these will be standing out from the crowd.
Right. And to everyone who's listening to us right now, I would like you to find Abhijeet Anand on LinkedIn and connect with him if you're not already connected with him. Follow his posts because he's posting some amazing content out there. And as I said, he's not just a commercial engineer, he is an influencer, he's a motivational speaker as well. You need to understand, you need to follow his journey to identify where are the bright spots and how is he making an impact. There's a lot to learn through his journey. I would say definitely connect with him on LinkedIn. I'm sure he will reply to all your queries, but yes, you do need to send a context and the right content to him, right, Abhijeet?
Right, Garima, I think you summarized it really well. Absolutely.
And now, Abhijeet, let's talk about your role as a commercial engineer. Who is a commercial engineer? What does a typical day at work look like? Because a lot of students out there who are still trying to understand the industry would want to know what does the role and responsibilities look like?
No, that's a very good question. To be honest, 1 year back, I did not know either. So, and I really don't blame anyone if they don't understand that. But the way I'll put it in a context is, and I think the bigger question is there are different roles with a similar objective. And then the same objective have different people have different parts to play in that objective. I am playing a part in order to make sure that my company's businesses thrive in the coming years. So my role in layman's words is preparing strategy and business models such that our businesses go in the direction that the vision that our top leadership has set, which is quite clear that we help the customers win by
Mhm.
creating a win-win scenario. So we make you win. So when you win, I win as a service provider.
Right.
So those kind of winning proposals, those kind of commercial strategies is what my day-to-day job lies with as commercial engineer.
Mhm.
Now, to understand how people will understand or what graduates need to know is you really don't need to figure out every single role that exists in an industry, be it oil industry, be it any other industry. But what you really need to figure out is, I would say, and it lies with, I'm not sure if you heard of 16 personalities test.
Yes, yes.
Uh, yeah, you have. Very good. And people who haven't, I highly recommend you take the 16 personality test. So what it does is it helps you understand what kind of a person you are and where would you fit in what kind of role. Now,
Right.
the number of roles, I would say, are millions, if not more, in different industries, right? Even in my company, I won't say there are less than 10,000 to 15,000 different roles. So there are plenty of roles. So in that sense, what it means is once you know what kind of person you are, then you can understand what kind of job you want. Don't go the other way around. Don't say that, okay, I want to become something XYZ and I will learn those skills.
Mhm.
What happens in that case is, I mean, that's one of the most common things that you must have heard in all your life. The problem with that is the moment you reach there and you do those stuff, you will feel bored because it was not you who wanted that. I mean, who you yourself wanted that. It was something probably somebody put in your head and you tried to copy what was needed for that, right?
Right.
So it's good at certain point. Maybe there may be situations where you do that, but in If you want to have a continuity and set job satisfaction, that's when you don't go that direction. What you go is what you like and how you can create value with what you're good at in the industry and what roles are available, right? So I'd say in this role, if you are one of the people who thinks forward, who thinks a scenario which is win-win. I mean, who is not sure enough to only say I win and I don't care if my customers win, and who are good with numbers and who has a business acumen. This role fits perfectly for him or her. So I'd summarize this way about this role and different aspects.
Right, right. And how has your journey been with Schlumberger? What are some of the diverse roles that you have taken up in this organization? What do you enjoy the most, and what are some challenges that you are proud to have overcome?
Right. Okay. So my journey in Schlumberger has been probably a very interesting one in the sense that how I started up. So I started up in South India in a field called Nagalanka in Andhra Pradesh. Very interesting place. And I started up with hammering. So I remember my first day. And if you are an engineering graduate coming from IIT and top engineering colleges, you won't expect to have a 10 pounds or 5 something kg hammer, and a huge hammer, in other words, and trying to hammering and put all oil and grease and stuff on your face and body. So just because it's not because that happens, because you're new and you're trying to learn, right? So oil field is not an easy industry to be in, start in the field. So I started doing that. I was doing all the kind of stuff that is required in the starting phase of the industry, and I certainly tell you, it's very very important to start there, because that's when you know, when you grow up and you become a leader, what happens in the field.
Right.
So that's where I started up. I worked all across India. I worked across Bombay. I worked across in South India, in Gujarat, in Rajasthan, Assam. You name a field in India, I probably worked there. So I worked all across in different areas. I worked across different domains in terms of different responsibilities. Started off with field engineering, went into technical, went into sales, went into account management. Then I became a manager in 2018 when I was leading a team of 47, and I was tasked to grow the business in 4 months by 200%.
Wow.
And that was the biggest challenge, I would say, that I loved it absolutely, and I'm really proud of. To answer one of your questions, uh, I had to grow my team from 47 to 84 in a span of 3 months, 3 to 4 months, and my business was doubling. And I was put there as a first time into the role, and I'm really happy to share that in 3 months I did. Yeah, I was able to do that when I grew my team from 44 to 47, sorry, 77, in a span of just 3 months, hiring all across the country, bringing the best talent, making sure this talent get fit into the role, get into the engineering jobs, get into the field engineering jobs. They mingle together. There is appropriate mentorship. There is appropriate training. And I would say that was probably one of the roughest time that I've faced. Very difficult, but I'm really proud of, and one of the best, I would say, as well. I remember going to the field, meeting with my crew, my people, they having the gratitude, me having the same, and everybody quite energized to be in a team, and all trying to make it happen, right? So from different experience, from different genres, from different backgrounds, different geographies, that's the kind of energy I'll say. I love it. For me, I'm a people kind of person. I love people, and I love to empower them to become what they the best they can deliver. So that's something that gives me a calling. And that's what exactly happened in that case, I would say. I picked up the best choice, picked best talents, put them in the place they wanted to become, and empowered them to deliver what they're good at or what they can. So that was my journey when I was there in India in 2018, end of 2018 and early 2019, and then I moved to Bucharest, Romania. And ever since then, I've been working here as a commercial engineer, working with countries in Europe and Africa, over 40 countries that I have to work with on a regular basis. So it's been a quite interesting perspective from where I started to where I am today, and I continue to learn. I mean, just to Schlumberger is a great company to work for, and the kind of opportunities and the kind of challenges it puts you in, you grow every single day. You grow. So I'm really grateful to the company as well, and I see this more as self growth and trying to impact more lives as an opportunity than only just working. So it's a win-win, even for me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's been a wonderful journey for you, I'm sure, because listening to your story, I can see how far you have traveled, and congratulations for that. And now, if you had to give our audience a thought to take back home regarding why they should be a part of this industry at this point of time, why is this the best place to be in?
Okay. How about I do the other way around? So I'll do the other way around. I'll say, if you're one of the people who don't like challenges, don't get into the industry. If you're one of the people who believes that being at a sitting in the office and spending all the life is what you want, don't be in this industry. If you believe that being stagnant is what that motivates you, don't come to this industry. If you believe that doing all the crazy stuff, going offshore, going into desert, going into island is something that doesn't gives you energy bump, do not come into this industry. If you believe that do not want to learn and grow your personality, do not come into this industry. If you believe that you do not want diversity, working with different geographies and trying to make an impact by working across geographies, do not come into this industry. If you believe that that the best way to grow in an industry is having a particular skill set and then spending all your life, this industry is not for you. Number nine, I would say, if you believe that you will be stuck with one kind of role, in one job position, and that's where you can grow all your life, this industry will challenge you to your deepest of the roots. So if you are that kind, do not come to this industry. And number 10, if you're one of the people who are not motivated by making lives meaningful of the people around you, don't come to this industry, because what we do in this industry is we come up with technologies and resources in order to bring the energy of day-to-day life cheaper, efficient, safer, and better. So these are the 10 things I would say why you shouldn't come. If you have any other 11 thing, you should be in here.
You have given them so many reasons to be a part of this landscape, and so many important elements to think upon. And I'm sure they'll do their research and follow up with you on that, Abhijeet. And thank you so much for joining me today. It has been an absolute pleasure talking to you, learning about your journey, understanding where you come from and how far you have traveled from where you started. It's been quite an eventful journey for you, and I'm very, very glad that you are where you deserve to be. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Garima, for talking to me today. I am really happy that I was able to share my story. And I really look forward that students and the young professionals who are in this scenario today, and that one message I'd like to pass to you is, remember, this is temporary.
Yes.
It's not going to stay with us.
Right.
What counts is what you have done in your life so far. You have gone places to where you are today. You have worked hard all your life. That's not going anywhere. That remains with you. And number three is your dreams and your self-belief is what's going to define your future, not the people around you. So use this, believe in yourself, and strive for what you want to do. And that's where I say my motive in life is love, empower. Love, light, and empower. So basically, you have to make sure that you share your love around the people you are in. Light the people who you believe are in dark, and light your own light in the process as well. And then empower your community. Because when you empower your community, you're actually empowering yourself. The better the community, the better your people you live with, the better you become. So love, light, and empower. That's the last message I'd like to communicate. Thank you very much for your time today, and I really love talking to you.
Thank you so much.